Welcome to Quintessence Virtual Retreat Spiritual Journey. I am so pleased and grateful to be joined here today with Jasmeen Hana. She is a embodied spirituality teacher and also practices ancient Egyptian temple arts.
Mhm.
And I'm just so thankful you can join our discussion today and how, really reclaiming our spiritual connection to ourselves can change and uplift our lives.
Mhm.
And I would love to just open this space by taking some grounding breaths together and just breathing into our fullness.
Mhm. Yes. Mm.
I'd like to take this moment to just invite our listeners to set their own personal intention for our time together. This way, you're able to really kind of extract the wisdom from the conversation that really applies to your own life, and you're able to take, the action steps or the intention that's appropriate for you at this time. I also want to thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you for just taking this time in your life to really connect with your spiritual essence and acknowledging that when we enliven our spiritual essence, there is a ripple effect out into our families, our friends, and the entire planet. And so, as we are experiencing this awakening, the, there is a exponentialization that happens between us. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for your participation in this global awakening.
Mhm.
And with that, Jasmeen, would you be so kind to share with us a bit about your work?
Mm. Thank you, Maggie, and also all of you that are showing up for yourself and for this work. Um, I remember just the first times when, the word spirituality came into my life, and how at that moment I was just like a thirsty well receiving water, and how impacted I was by even the tiniest drops that had profound impacts on my life. So I'm so grateful for the space you're offering to Maggie, and every drop counts on this in this world at the moment. Every
Yes,
drop of spirit, yes.
yes.
Um, So talking of drops, I think that's kind of as a way I could lead into the work I do, which is pretty much bringing the watering of spirit into into this land, into this earth. And growing up, I felt thirsty for something real,
Mm,
thirsty for
mm,
something that felt soulful, that felt alive, and was not this dry, kind of brittle, sometimes thorny reality. I was like, where is the replenishment? Where is the nourishment that I knew to be the grace of the divine, or of nature itself? So the work I pretty much do is supporting and facilitating everyone back to their own source of nourishment within that own river, ocean within themselves. So through embodiment, through feelings, which I feel is very much connected to our spiritual work. There's many ways to rise to the heights, and I definitely went on that journey of ascension for my most of my early 20s, and into my mid 20s. But it wasn't until I started to have to feel what was happening in my body that I realized, oh, some part of me was also bypassing what was happening. And so my feelings were like the language of my soul starting to communicate. So again, that
ooh,
flow of feeling, realizing that our feelings are powerful, and there is no negative or bad or dark feeling. It's all valid. It's a communication to our deepest essence, our grief, our sadness, even our sacred rage, our fear that tremble inside. They're all gateways back home. And so I sometimes like to share or call myself a midwife of the soul, which is pretty much supporting beings to birth themselves in their totality. But every part of the birth, every part of oneself is part of that birthing. Nothing can get left behind, if you know what I mean. Like, nothing can
Yes.
get shoved under the carpet or locked in a closet, and I'll pretend that doesn't exist. No, that's part of the journey. So I don't believe in only light. There's also the dark, and there's a great wisdom and compassion when one can start to embrace the totality and all aspects of oneself. So it's a homecoming and requires incredible compassion to love all those parts that sometimes get left behind. And in that restoration, there's incredible power. So a lot of the work is also empowering and remembering and resonating with the true sound of our voice. That is really important, I feel, at this time, to be connected to our power, to our voice, to the integrity and alignment of that voice, feeling everything and not leaving anything behind, including our sacred life force energy, which sometimes is translated as sacred sexuality. I like to call it life force energy, the pulse and the current of life itself. To integrate that too and bring it to the heart, I feel, is also a very important step on this journey. So, and these are all practices from the temples of Egypt, which is a land I grew up on. I'm half Egyptian and I grew up in Egypt. And I gained so much insight and wisdom from the land herself, from nature, from visiting the ancient sites. And yeah, there's an incredible beauty and wisdom to our simple nature. So,
Yes. And not to, start on this note, but I think in this time, in this exact time, that is the calling, is to return to our simple nature and to see that there is infinite blessings in our simple nature, and that sometimes the complexity of life can be just a distraction from this inner landscape, which is so rich and so vibrant and so full of wisdom. Um, because we're all connected to that wisdom, right? Through nature, through the landscape. We are a part of the landscape. We came from the soil. There is no distinction. And so I find for myself, especially when I need to reach a deeper level of truth, nature is my immediate conduit. I mean, it's my reset. It is my and I see myself now as part of the nature, not like going to nature, it's like a returning home, and so I love that you bring up this landscape of Egypt. And obviously there is such an amazingly rich history in this landscape, and in the technologies that were created in Egypt, in the connections that were made to the astral beings in Egypt. And so I just want to kind of invite that energy into our conversation, and pay homage and respect to those ancestors. And so with that, I'm very curious, when you hear spiritual journey, what does that conjure up for you? What does that illuminate for you inside of yourself?
I love that word journey. I feel like this whole life is a journey in essence. I feel my soul is on a journey, um, and as the journey, as the word journey for me also invokes the word mystery. I don't know. There's a beauty
Mhm.
to the journey, is almost being on a, it's like almost like my soul being held on this vessel, which sometimes I feel is almost like a boat, and it's just moving through these waters of life. And I don't know, like it's a mystery. And to invoke more of the mystery rather than feeling that there is a goal to attain, that goal to attain, I'm starting to actually release myself from the sense that there is any goal to attain through my spiritual practice. What if I felt I was already there? It's this here and now, and every unfolding moment is the unraveling of a deeper mystery. And so that's the journey, that's what sparks for me. And I feel there's an element of a surrender that happens with that word mystery, a deep surrender. And as I can even feel it, just the weight of my, my shoulders, and it starts to make myself feel I'm worthy where I am. Like I am already enough, I am worthy. Me being a soul incarnate, right? That's like right now, that's everything. So the
Mhm.
spiritual
Mhm.
journey, I feel, is a remembrance that we are love, and this is love. And even in sometimes the duality and the polarity, and like the hard and the sweetness, but also sometimes there is suffering, but to remember that it's all in essence a way back to love. So and that's all we can do, I feel, is keep loving and cracking the heart open to more love, even when it hurts. It's like
Yes.
sometimes that hurts. It hurts me being a soul on this planet. It's brutal out there sometimes. It's
Yes.
horrendous, some of the things. And being a sensitive soul, it's hard to be a soul in a body. But the only way through is, I feel, through that heartbreak, through that grieving, allowing it to actually, in a way, crack open the heart to love and be in the mystery of this great cosmic adventure that we're all on. Yeah.
Yes. And so I have a daughter who's 4,
Mm,
and at 4, in my understanding, is when you really accept that you are incarnate on this planet, because 4 is the number of the earth. And so it's like sometimes she will come to me and she will say, Mama, I don't like this place.
mm,
And at first it really was like, whoa, like, and we'll be at home. It's not like she doesn't like where we are. It's like
mm,
she doesn't like, sometimes her skin or her, you know, and I've been working into accepting and just being like, I understand that, sometimes mama doesn't like it either. And just
mhm,
allowing that to be okay, in that cracking open, like it's okay in the spiritual journey that sometimes we want to get off the boat,
mhm,
that it's overwhelming, that it's so much to take in. And it's so, I don't know exactly what her spirit is encountering, obviously. But I feel privileged that she is conscious enough that she can voice it and share it with me. And I
mm,
think that is so much of the journey, is coming to a place like you're saying, where you can invite in those dark energies, those, and by dark energies I don't mean like, you know outside dark energies. I mean the energies within us that
mm,
are feeling unloved, that are
mm,
feeling unworthy, that are
mhm,
feeling unseen, unlistened to,
mhm,
um, and that we can invite them in and say, it's okay, it's
mhm,
okay, and that we can feel it and breathe it. For me, a lot of it for me is breathing it. A
mm,
lot of times I will hold an emotion that feels uncomfortable and just keep breathing it. until it feels fully acknowledged and
Mhm.
fully present.
Mm.
And in that, it's not like, I want to breathe you because then you'll go away.
Mm.
It's even like, I want to breathe you because I want to love you. I want to
Mm.
love this part of you that doesn't want to be here. This part of
Mhm.
you that wants ultimate surrender. This all of this. And I think that is so much of the spiritual journey for myself, because
Mhm.
when we invite in all the parts of us, the joyous parts too, and we allow all these parts to sit together, then it's like we have a full palette to paint from, I feel like.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we have, I call it sometimes full spectrum living, you know? Like,
Beautiful.
because then whatever we're experiencing, I think about this often. I'm like, at the end of my life, I really just want to feel like I showed up, like I
Mhm.
showed up for my life, whatever it was. I showed up in the pain, in the beauty, and I was present. I was a witness. I was a witness to all of it, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, could you share with us like a spiritual journey, either of, your life or an aspect of it, like what that looks like in a very tangible way, if that.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, there's so many chapters in this book of life. I'm like, just feeling myself like skimming through the chapters. But what comes up is already myself as I think I was about 6 years old already when I had my first spiritual encounter, which was I grew up Islamic and I was very, very devout in my sense of prayer and reading the scriptures. And I loved it. Like there was already this sense of, okay, I am, yeah, I am a part of creation. I am born and I will die, and I'm on
Mm,
a journey. And it's that initial moment where I realized, oh, I'm a soul on this planet, in this body, and there's seen and unseen forces. Like I was about 6 years old, and then the
wow.
whole, and it was about the multidimensionality of, there's the different hierarchies, there's the angelic realms, and then there's the darker realms for me, but I never felt they were darker. There came a point, I think a turning point, when I really started to feel into what darker forces meant, but I couldn't believe that they were not part of God's will and God's love. Like
Mm,
there was already that sense which led me into a crisis at about 15, 16. And you can already tell I was in like, a teenager that went out, and I was like really kind of deep in like the crisis of life and death and God and creation. So it was already very young. I was on that journey. And uh, and then I couldn't understand how there would be so much love, but then so much like some there was some split there, which really confused me, but made me realize my own split between myself and spirit. And so that led me to a journey of pretty much from the age of, yeah, around 21, just wanting to infuse spirit into my body so that I wasn't separate from it. And so that led me on my journey to Vipassana, which was a start. So I want to share, like, this spiritual journey isn't just like all light, like amazing, birds and doves flying, and then of course the the gold geometric grids and the symphonies of heaven. Yeah, I've had glimpses, of course, moments of absolute utter divine grace that has brought tears to my eyes and brought me on my knees in the beauty of the grace of divine. But I also want to acknowledge the spiritual crisis that comes along too, which is part of the spiritual journey. And when that happens, there's nothing wrong with you, and you're not being punished. If you're on your knees, you're not being punished, and that was really important because I felt for a while I was being punished, until now I realize the more my heart kind of opens to more compassion. Only by going through more and more of these crises can I actually embrace the journey of the spiritual awakening, which is like, sometimes I feel like a butterfly rupturing out of a cocoon. It's not always easy and beautiful. There's tension, and the tension, I feel, is the magic. But the spiritual journey, I feel, it comes from that moment where the soul recognizes, like, okay, I'm in this body, and wait a minute, this is me, but this is not just me. Like, I am this, but I am also connected to an unseen realm, and that is also a part of me. So that beginning of the journey, there's more to me, there's more to life, that something starts to expand, and a sense of awareness and consciousness starts to expand. And when that happened, I remember it was like a night where it was like a cosmic explosion inside of me, where just everything started to click, like it felt like
Mhm.
from the beginning of time till now. So something started to happen where I realized, oh, this is not the first time I've been in a body, or this is like, like the bigger cosmic reality, the bigger earth story, like the story of
Yes.
life itself started to open.
Yes.
And so yeah, that's what that's how a bit of a snippet of my journey. And just finally want to say, the journey led me to Asia, and led me to years and years of meditating and, celibacy. But also it led me then to South America and working with indigenous grandmothers. And really, there's so many stories in this book of, like I shared. But it did bring me back to Egypt. And I feel sometimes like the story of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's like taking that long journey just to realize, oh, but it was there all along. Like, but I just had
Mhm.
to embark on this long journey to go find the treasure. But wait a minute, the treasure was always right here. But I
Mhm.
do feel that going away to come back and remember is an important part of the spiritual journey, to recognize it was always here. The treasure has always been here. So yeah.
I love that part, like, because by going away, it's almost as though, and doing all these travelings, you could then, like, your lens was getting honed, and then when you go home, you see it from this completely different
Mm,
perspective, kind of like, maybe
mm,
not completely different, but it's like a claiming, right? Like a claiming of your birth home. And I get that, because the first thing I wanted to do when I was 18 was leave Iowa, which I did. And I ended up at a Buddhist college, and I loved it. And then my own, because I am very devout to listening to my inner wisdom.
mm,
And my inner wisdom said, I actually needed to look at that convergence point of spirituality and science. And at
mm,
the Buddhist college I was at, there was a pushing away of science. There was like, it was too linear. It was too, and I felt like, no, it needs to go, for me, it needed to be that cross reference point. And
mm.
so the school I found, oddly enough, to study Vedic science and quantum physics was in Iowa, of all places. Like,
There you
of
go.
all places on the planet,
Mhm.
the one place I wanted to get rid of, out of my, because I just felt so trapped there. But I went back, and I, lived in dorms when I had been having my own house for 2 years and my freedom. But there they were very strict. And so I get that there is a place where you have to accept, like,
Mm,
almost the familiar and the most mundane as also the most sacred, you
mm,
know?
beautiful. Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, when you were talking about really infusing yourself with spirit, so there wasn't this feeling like spirit is outside, and then there's me.
Mm, mhm.
Can you share a bit with us, like, what I know you mentioned Vipassana, but can you go a little bit deeper into what techniques did you find were really helpful in that infusing
Yeah,
process.
right. Definitely. So there was a number. It started with Vipassana, but then it also branched out. But Vipassana was a very powerful way to realize that for me, it was spending hours just breathing, which I heard that you like to do, is like breathing. And in that feeling that the touch of breath was touching my cell or my like the atomic structure. So this
Mm.
fusion
Yes.
of spirit and matter creating a sensation which is life, the pulse of life, and just going deeper and deeper into that. So just feeling spirit infuse my matter, giving
Mhm.
rise to a sensation,
Mhm.
and just being aware of the rising and passing away of that was my gateway. And for me, it was also a path of the beloved, like feeling this dance with this the beloved also, which made it very pleasurable to sit and breathe for hours. So rather than sitting and like trying to attain something, I started to realize, oh, this is a way of actually in a way making love with divine. And I find
Yes.
that the gateway, the key for me is that pleasure, I cannot separate the pleasure of my body and from having an experience, spiritual experience. Somewhat they are infused. And I feel like rewriting that story that, if it's pleasurable and you're actually enjoying it, then it's not spiritual. Spiritual is like, flogging your back and, clearing your sins and sitting on hard floors. And I don't buy it. Like I did some quite austere things. And then I was like, no, this is not the way. This is me just not, again, it's like I'm not embracing my totality. And so
Mhm.
sitting and breathing, but allowing even pleasure and the infusion of pleasure into the body. And so I started to find myself in very ecstatic, blissful states. And there was this oneness with the divine, almost like merging myself with a beloved, which was the divine,
Mhm.
and feeling like I was the beloved. And so again, it was like this unification. And in that, polarities get unified, masculine, feminine, starting to unify my own inner masculine with my own inner feminine, realizing that I'm both of these energies and not polarizing myself only in my feminine energy, but allowing my masculine to also give rise and stand within me. So that was another way. And very much starting to do the body of the work of waking up the body. So body work, dancing, shaking, sounding, emotional release, using tools to start to release any, blocked and stored emotions, to give them the voice to vibrate through that. And I feel like clear the cellular memory. So I feel like
Yes.
everything, all this programming is pretty much stored in our DNA, and it's all water. So by vibrating and sounding and breathing and allowing rage or grief or whatever it is to run through the body and release it, not hold on to it, not get attached to the story behind it, release it, is a way of personal empowerment, and the body starts to free itself from these denser parts. So it's like something starts to
Mhm.
expand, and then I feel
Mhm.
there's more capacity and room for spirit to really land in the body. And these were some of the practices I'm starting to discover, which happened in Egypt, was infusing divine intelligence or the God mind into the cells. So they used practices of sacred sexuality. They worked with their deepest core fear and to vibrate life into that, to bring life, which is the like that spirit of life is in as like the life force is spirit. They're not disconnected. It's not
Yes.
something light and fluffy beyond us. It's like in us. It's our fire, our passion, our desires, like life moving through us that connects us to all kingdoms of nature that is within us, ignited, and that has the spark of spirit in it to start to realize, oh yeah, I'm animal and spirit, I'm masculine, I'm feminine, I'm nature, I'm divine. I'm like, all these
Yes.
marriages starting to
Yes.
happen
Yes.
inside, and allowing that current to then burst forth from the heart. It's like, oh, it's ecstatic, it's blissful. It's also sometimes traumatic, and not traumatic in the sense of re-traumatizing, but feeling that, to move through it, to bring the
Mhm.
ecstatic current of nature and remember that. So yeah.
I love this. And I think what I love the most about it is that when we have cleared or done a lot of these processes to release anything that's stored, that's imprinted, that
Mm,
we're now such a clean, clear vessel for the moment that we're in now, right?
yes.
Like I had this moment. I live in Northern California on the coast, and before I had a baby and blah blah blah, I I used to bodyboard like every day. I would bodyboard. I had this moment in the ocean where I felt like the great central sun that the Milky Way galaxy is spinning around, right? There's another sun that we're just like an arm on the galaxy, right? The
Mm,
Sagittarius arm is where our solar system is. So I felt that this great central sun was impulsing our sun, and that the rays of the sun were going into the ocean. And it was like, and then it was impregnating me with this information of like totality. And
mm,
it felt like, this is a very mundane way to say it, but it felt like I was like embodying the newspaper of the universe. Like, because I was this vessel. So it was like I was able to get the most current, up to date vibration in my
mm,
being
mm,
through the the sun impregnating the ocean, and then me being in the ocean and that impregnating me.
mm,
And I felt in that moment like I could fully be utilized by spirit, if that makes
mm,
sense. Like
mm,
my own Maggie impulses were cleared, and I was now able to move into this place of like being a like, I don't want to say a soldier, warrior, but like being a servant, right? But a
mm.
servant and like a co-creator, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But so there's this beauty, because when we do this cellular clearing, we don't have to hold all of this, which is like a lot to hold, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then also we get this beauty of like fully being here and
Mm-hmm.
fully feeling the vibrations of what's happening now. And because for myself, I want to be I want to be utilized. I want to be a servant. I want to do my part because I'm so enamored by the beauty and the grace of creator and the universe that like I
Mm,
want to do everything I can to be in alignment with that, you
mm,
know?
mhm,
And so I love this idea of just, shaking it out, releasing it, being present for whatever needs to come up, you know, whatever wants to be expressed. And then realizing that you're creating a void that spirit can fill, you
mm,
know,
mm,
and being that vessel, right? Being that vessel and like feeling that partnership, feeling
mm,
that closeness.
mhm,
Um, and so that brings me to my next curiosity, which is, what do you really feel is like the most profound gift that, embarking on this, like taking the call of your spiritual journey and really being present for it? How do you feel that has like get like what has that given your life? And I know for you it's like your whole life, so how do you really even tether that, um but I'm just curious for people who are thinking like, yeah, maybe I need to really commit to my life as a spiritual journey,
Mm,
as an open, commit to my life as an open-ended question, you
mm,
know?
yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, we're all on a spiritual journey. It's just a matter of remembering it or not, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone is.
Yeah.
We're all born and we're all gonna die, and the soul is inevitably on a soul journey through this, time, space, quantum. So we're all on a journey. I feel, regardless of what life right now and what's happening on the planet is shaking up something that's fast, like that is asleep in humanity, which is the fact that we're all connected. We're all connected on this earth together. We're all breathing the same breath. We're all like need this sunlight to survive. We're all like need to drink fresh water. And so we're coming together more as a, I'd say more of like a spiritual community than it is like just I'm on my own individual journey and I'm on a journey of salvation and I'm reaching my enlightenment. I think right now, actually, life is bringing it more to it's more to the we, and to remember that it's a group thing right now. It's not just the individual
Mhm.
alone. And
Mhm.
maybe in the past, thousands of years, it's been a very solo journey just because of the dark ages and kind of leaving these amazing civilizations to really coming back to a really, dormant, unconscious kind of time on the planet. Now we're remembering, but it doesn't feel anymore like it's the solo journey. It's like the soul of humanity is waking up together. So regardless of where you're at, you can also rest assured that there's the soul of humanity. Like, you're gonna be danced and taken on the current anyway if you're awakened enough. You're like, if a little bit's awakened, you're going to be danced by reality, by the soul, the song of the soul, the world soul, I want to say. So and and even just looking at the lockdown and what's happened, for the first time I think in history, that the whole world has undergone a same situation. And so again, life is already, the divine intelligence is already creating the scenarios and the situations. So it's giving time for people to introspect, to go in, to ask different questions, and and more people are remembering and are awakening. And it does feel like there's a sudden burst and boom coming from all angles, reminding us that we are together on this planet and we are together as a humanity, and it's time humanity started to stand together. And so I feel it's inevitably happening, if that answers your question. But
Yes.
it does take the individual will. And so that's what's really being tested right now, because the will is it's the most crucial thing right now, I feel, to get through. And will is not pressure and stress and I got to, and if I don't, I'm doomed, and that kind of like inner critic of the immature masculine, which is just a built-in inner patriarchy. That's not what I'm talking about. Will, it's like this fire inside that says, I'm doing my best, and I know I'm doing my best, and I'm worthy, and it's okay if I, mess up sometimes, but I'm here for love. That's all it takes, is I'm here for love. And that sincere feeling of like, I'm here for love, and that's all I can be. And being in the vulnerability of that helplessness sometimes, and being in the vulnerability and the power of I feel the power right now is, as a humanity, is in our vulnerability. And I want to just finally say that word warrior, I feel, is a very powerful word. But it's more of like it's a warrior integrated with the tenderness and the vulnerability of the heart. So it's not going out for the fight anymore. It's more being being the warrior of love, which is also extremely vulnerable, and to open the heart that way, and to start to trust others, like to really let others in, so that we can come together as a group soul, as a humanity of love. It sounds very humanity of love, but I feel like that's what's happening. The world is awakening to its one heart and one soul, basically. Yeah.
Yes. And I love this. The Greeks had a term, anima mundi, which means like the collective soul of everything on the planet. And
Mm,
I do feel like when I'm connecting with people such as yourself, I can feel that awakening of the anima mundi and of this collective vision. It feels like there are many individuals that have the same collective vision of a world where we truly are following, which is so simple. We're truly following this golden rule. We're truly treating each other as we wish to be treated in the
mm,
world, right? Like we
mm,
are truly seeing the divinity in each other's eyes, and we're welcoming that divinity into our heart as our own, you know? And it does sound like very utopian, but I have such through cycles of time, which I know I used to have a poster from Egypt that talked about, and I'm going to kind of get this wrong, so help me, Jasmine, but it was like there are certain times when the Egyptians said that the spirit held up, I think it was Nut or Newt, I'm not sure how to pronounce
mm,
it, but held up, like spirit held up the feminine, and then there were certain times when the feminine held up the masculine. And so
mm,
I do feel like through that, through the Vedic literature, through the Mayan calendar, there are many points of reference through the Hopi rock. There's so many points of reference that we actually are awakening to this global community of compassionate, empathic,
mm,
um, and it's not just between humanity, it's actually between all species on the
mm,
planet, right? It's actually with the birds. I see this again with my daughter, like how much she feels connected to nature as
mm,
herself,
mhm.
as herself, not as something that's separate, you
Mhm,
know? And I think
mhm.
that that is part of that awakening, is that we all feel ourselves as part of that anima mundi. Like we
Yeah,
are that anima mundi, you
yeah.
know?
Mm. And also to note, thank you, Maggie, and also to add to that is the realization that we are all what we see outside, which is the hard part. Because yes, there's love and the beauty and like that, which, but there's also the unconscious part that hates, that even, and this is going to be hard to even hear for maybe some of you. I know it was at the beginning hard for me, but even the killer in me, or the part of me that would, would destroy something, but to actually feel like that is a part of me too, and to see anywhere where I'm not taking 100% responsibility, which means I am all of this. And until that happens, and to actually let that really again crack open the heart to this feeling like i i am I am a part of all of this, and like somewhat, yeah, to find the gateway of that the heart into that deep vulnerability, into the separation from what is love, and to remember that it's happening in here, and that to come back here. So yeah, it's not always coming together as a community. I mean, I've been part of communities, and I realize to just be in the love and light together doesn't work. I don't believe it, because there's just so much bypass, and it's felt like, wait a minute, there's more to this. And I love working with shadow, because I feel that's where I feel roots start to come down. I start to trust people's integrity and to trust my own when I start to embody more of my shadow, and to start to realize, okay, yeah, there's love here, but wait, I'm also afraid. Oh, wait, I'm hiding this part of me. I'm ashamed of exposing this part of me. Oh, I'm inflated now. I'm in my superior self. Oh, wait a minute. Like all these, like I don't want to live that way. I don't want to live in a community where everyone's preaching love, but really underneath that, there's so much fear of showing what isn't love. So, to start to really lean in together and expose really expose our vulnerability that, yeah, there is a core wound, and not to spill that wounding onto others, but to allow it to break open the heart and lean in, to lean in
Yes.
together. um, and I see still a lot, and I've been surrounded by, quite a number of spiritual beings for many years, and there's still this sense of not fully leaning in, because spiritual bypass is also there, this air of superior, I'm connected to spirit now and I've moved through everything. It's like, hey brother, or hey sister, like there's still more there, it's
Mhm.
something still rumbling underneath, and that's, starting to crawl up the walls, and it's seen and felt. And so there has to be a space too in the spiritual work to work with the shadow, to work with that energy, because when it's integrated, it's power, and I feel it's integrity. And then we can really start to stand together in our light and our dark together as warriors of love. um
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Because that is the warrior. That is like the tool of the warrior of love, right? Is to love the dark and love the ugly and love the tainted and love the
Yeah.
grotesque and the
Hmm.
parts of ourself. And I can speak to this because as a survivor of incest, I was so grotesqued by my own being, by what had
Mm.
happened to my own being, and there was no escaping it.
Yeah.
And so the only way through was to find out how to love, and even to love that experience, and even to love the experience, or and even to love the part of myself that found pleasure in that experience,
Mm.
right? And to love those grotesque parts. And then in that there's always a level of beauty, right? In the
Mhm.
most grotesque, when you really get to it, there's a level of beauty in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And that's that unfolding. And
Mhm.
so, and I think really that is so much of the spiritual journey, is to have that question and hold that question of how can we love more? How can we love deeper? How can we expand our love? And that sometimes shows in rage. Rage
Mm.
can be an
Mhm.
expression of love, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Rage. So it's, I guess what I'm getting at is like finding that place where love is all forms, and we're
Mhm.
showing up for all forms of how love is. And it's really holding that within our being, within our heart, within our body,
Yeah.
and being that vessel, and really not, like you were saying in the beginning, not severing a part of ourselves,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jasmeen. I mean, this has been so, just, I want to say profound, but really it has been like for me, like the polishing of a stone,
Mm.
in that we have gotten to a layer, I feel like, in this quest of just how do we become a more embodied in our
Mhm.
spiritual journey, to
Yeah.
fully see all of it, you know
Mhm. Yeah.
and I really appreciate the depth and authenticity and vulnerability that you have shared with us. And I would love to just kind of breathe it in and
Mhm.
send it out as a prayer.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
let's do that. Okay.
Okay. And may all beings be happy and free. And may our thoughts, words, and actions contribute to the happiness and freedom of all beings everywhere. And thank you, Jasmeen, for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Maggie, for making this possible for many to drink this nourishment of spirit. May we all be nourished by life and by spirit, deeply nourished. It's a time of abundance. No more scarcity. It's time of abundance. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
amen.
Yes.